Hi, and welcome back to Reverse Shot, the show where we turn the camera around, take a look at the problems of the media. Now, this week I want to start with something that's been kind of gaining in intensity in social media circles, and that is that somewhere, some member of legacy or corporate media has been telling people to be afraid of their family members who are Trumpers because they're going to turn you into the government. Well, Donald Trump isn't even president yet, so I don't know why you would have to worry about it this holiday season. But nonetheless, I tracked this down a little bit, and it all goes back to a social media posting by Joy Reid. I believe, if it came elsewhere, forgive me, Joy, but this is what she posted and what people are now quoting. Take a look.
People are rightfully alarmed. They have a reason to be alarmed. And if you would vote for that, people may not feel so confident that they're safe with you. This is not crazy. This is legitimate feelings of fear of you and a feeling that you might not be someone they could trust. If this thing goes way south, autocracies go south real fast and things get ugly and people get asked to do things and turn people in and point people out and turn on them. And if you're voting affirmatively, gleefully for this, and people may not feel so confident in you anymore. That's real, and you kind of have to live with it. So if you think that you can vote for what people see as their destruction and then demand that they still are cool with you and kiki with you and have Thanksgiving with you, I think you're kind of missing the point of what people are upset about. They're afraid. And autocracy and fascism are things that are legitimate to be afraid of. So you may want to step back.
Okay, autocracy I understand. Fear I understand. But stepping back from your own family members, man, and my family, especially around holiday season, when we all get together, the insults fly fast and furious, and so does the alcohol. Seriously, if part of this was taken out of context, part of it is fear-mongering, and part of it is Joy being very cautious. Look, this is not the way you're going to deal with this problem, and the press is not reporting it very well. To deal with this problem, folks, we've got to talk to each other more, not less. And that's a problem the media has. Now, moving on. So what's next? Well, there's J.D. Vance. And this is him talking about the recent shutdown in government or potential shutdown in government.
Mr. Vance, will you accept any deal that does not include a debt limit increase?
Look, I'll say one thing. The Democrats just voted to shut down the government, even though we had a clean CR, because they didn't want to give the president negotiating leverage during his first term, or during the first year of his new term. And number two, because they would rather shut down the government and fight for global censorship. They've asked for a shutdown, and I think that's exactly what they're going to get.
No nuance here, just lies. The Democrats had a deal with the Republicans, folks. They had a deal. And then who interfered? Well, it wasn't J.D. Vance. It wasn't even Donald Trump. It was Elon Musk, not even elected, just a rich billionaire who stepped in. So why even report what J.D. Vance is saying, right? He's saying the Democrats wanted this. No, there were a lot of Republicans who voted against it as well. They conveniently forget that because the usurper, Elon Musk, has taken care of them. Who runs the Republican Party? Then there's this moron, Scott Jennings. Why CNN still has him on the air? He gives journalism, he gives reporting, he gives everybody a band name. That's a different story entirely. But the fact is that while Congress was locked in a fight and a struggle over funding the government, spurred on by that wonderful Darth cheerleader Elon Musk, Scott Jennings was telling us the biggest scandal in the United States was, wait for it, Joe Biden's health. No, really. Watch.
This is the biggest scandal in America, and the level and volume of people who dedicated themselves to lying to everyone at home about this man's condition for 4 straight years up through this summer is breathtaking. It's a scandal of epic proportions, and it's a fair question to ask. Who is running the country? Who has been running the country? And as I said earlier, if you're worried about Donald Trump's advisors having influence, for the last 4 years, apparently this president, duly elected, but this president was not capable of fulfilling the duties of the office. And his staff and the White House lied about it and kept it from the American people. It's an absolute scandal.
The biggest scandal? Come on, that's not even close. Who's running the country, Scott? Well, right now it looks like Donald Trump is. He's not even in office, and that has nothing to do with Joe Biden's health. Not a thing. But who is running the country right now? Actually, it's Joe Biden. You want to know why I know it isn't Donald Trump? Because we spent 4 years listening to Donald Trump tell us it was infrastructure week at the White House and he was going to get it done. And he never did. Biden got that $1 trillion infrastructure deal passed. That's why I know Biden's in charge. Finally, I'd like to point out when the press does something right. It's rare that we do, but we did. I want to talk about CNN's Jim Acosta. Full confession, friend of mine, but he called out Elon Musk, and this is an example of the press doing it right.
Yeah, I mean, for all the talk of calling people fake news and so on, we can put this up on screen. He says the bill contained a 40% pay increase for members of Congress. I don't know if we can put that up there or not. There's a cost of living increase in it, but nothing as high as what he said. So to Dan Crenshaw's point, Elon Musk is spreading fake news. On this, he is fake news.
That brings us to this week's interview with Olivia Troye. She used to work with members of Trump's team, and she's being sued. She'll tell us all about this story, but this gives you an idea of where the Trump administration is going in its second incarnation. Suppressing voices who speak out against him, making sure that people bow their knee to him, and making sure that if you don't, you pay out the wazoo. So take a watch and listen. Hi, and welcome back to Reverse Shot. I'm your host, Brian Karen. With me today, we're going to explore again some of the subjects that we don't explore too deeply in the press and corporate media. And this issue is near and dear to the media. I think we pay a little bit more attention to it. And that's the threats that Donald Trump are going to make against the press, have already made against the press, and will continue to make against the press. And with me is someone who has a firsthand experience of being threatened. It's Olivia Troye. Olivia, it's a joy to have you again on the show. I think you've been on the show before, haven't you?
Or one of them. It's a long time, though.
It's been a while, but welcome back, and it's good to see you. And full disclosure, we share a common attorney. That's Mark Zaid. So I want to talk a little bit about the Kash Patel stuff that's come your way. This guy isn't even in office. You're already getting threats from Kash. Tell me all about it.
Well, you know, I knew that I would probably be hearing from my bestie from my White House days soon. And look, I have some significant concerns about Kash Patel becoming the head of the FBI. And I have those concerns because of who I witnessed when I was working with him. And this is someone who really, really believes in the enemy of the state. Everyone's an enemy. Everyone's the deep state. Well, he should be focused on the mission at hand in all of his roles, which is really the safety and security of Americans. He was more focused on figuring out who the deep state was, keeping information from the deep state, and reporting to the head honcho. And so now I'm living the retribution, I guess, as they refer to it, which is very real, of what someone who really strongly believes those narratives believes in. And he's not even in the role, right? That's the issue. So he has shown us his cards. I mean, I think we've seen the commentary that he's made in the past about his enemies and how he's going to go after and how he's going to turn the FBI into a museum of the deep state. I'm just wondering, do I get my portrait there, having coordinated a lot of operations with them and everything? Am I this when you walk in? No. The honorary wall.
This will be my new photo on my press pass.
Yes. Yes, please do that.
Yeah, if they let me back in. But right. But you said specifically what you've seen. What specifically do you mean?
Well, it's just this is someone who really has gone all in on this sort of viewpoint of how he views individuals. And, you understand this, I know, and many people out there understand it, that these are people actually who really contrary to popular belief of what the right-wing propaganda machine tries to push every single day, these are actually people who really care about national security. They actually truly, like, yes, are mistakes made along the way? Yes, but they really actually are there to really serve in a nonpartisan way in these situations, right? Whether it's counterterrorism, whether it's domestic terrorism. And so, my biggest fear is, it's like, what does domestic terrorism look like under Kash Patel when
Yeah.
he's on right-wing conspiracy theory type of podcasts, which he's done, right? And openly talks and supports conspiracies. I mean, this is not just me pontificating, making stuff up about Kash Patel. You can look it up,
No.
you can read it, you can hear it,
These
right?
are his own words. I've seen them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the fact that I just happened to point it out and be very specific about it, and also talk about what Mark Esper has said in terms of real operations that have happened, the concerns there that happened with Kash Patel being part of these things, upset him. And I think that this is a sign of things to come. I think, we should all be concerned about this. I'm waiting for the freedom of speech advocates to come to my defense.
I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you, because we should all be advocating about this, right? But I think that was a really big sign of how they're going to carry out these things, whether it's civil litigation, whether it's just ongoing litigation harassment, which seems to be Kash's MO, along with some of these other people, and Jesse Banal, his attorney. And, it comes at, let's be honest, it comes at a great cost. It comes at a cost of, like, this constantly weighing on you, thinking about it, having to deal with it. And that's why they do it, right? And so the other thing is, like, I'm thinking about, okay, when does the IRS start to audit? When, and if he does get confirmed to be head of the FBI, then it's like, okay, when does the FBI knock on my door? Things that never in a million years, having had a clearance for 20-something years now, I never thought about.
Monitoring your phone and your email and your online presence and following you, and you hear the clicks on the phone. You don't know who's listening, but you know someone
Right.
is.
Yeah. So what does that look like, right? Like, sometimes I'm at home and I joke and I say that I'm talking to the Chinese because they're always listening. So are they going to take footage of that and say that I'm a traitor talking to the Chinese? I don't know what this looks like, right? I mean, what kind of things are going to be made up along the way to silence people, intimidate them, and I think it comes in many forms.
Well, I agree with you, and the bullying will exist. But what concerns me, and it will, not only will it exist, but it'll get worse. I mean, we're saying he's not even in office yet, and
Right.
the biggest problem that I see in the press is the bowing to him prior to his installation as president. That is, and so I'd like you to speak a little bit to that. Does that concern you at all?
Absolutely. I think, this is what they want. There's a reason that he sent that letter, right? Because he wanted people to see what they were doing. He wanted to kind of send a warning shot across the bow to likely MSNBC, right? He wants these networks to sort of look at this and retreat. And I think we are seeing that in some networks happen. And I think that's really concerning, because I don't think that we can do that, because that is what they want, first of all. And that is also, as you and I both know, how democracy starts to fail, right? And that is the whole point of these people. So they want to do the intimidation.
They want it to fail. And I mean, I think it tells you everything that the Washington Post wouldn't endorse, the Los Angeles Times wouldn't endorse them. I think put Scott Jennings on the editorial board, who has no background in journalism.
That was interesting.
Yeah, and you do tell.
I mean, that was fascinating. When I see Scott Jennings now, I'm sure he's disappointed that he hasn't been named this. I thought it was just a daily audition to be Trump's press secretary. That's kind of how I took that. It's my understanding that he had conversations with people about this. Who knows? That's just speculation. That's what I've heard. That's the word on the street, as people say. And
that's a good word. I heard it as well.
Yeah. And you know what? Good luck. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Did it kind of like, it did sort of, it was upsetting to see, because this is someone who worked for Mitch McConnell, someone whose wife has been a recipient of the wrath of Donald Trump. He's been at odds with them. And this is someone who, for a long time, I would say, really always advocated Mitch McConnell went on media, kind of thing like that. And it's just interesting to watch someone who was in that realm sort of go all in now on the Trump team. And I guess, it is interesting. What do these networks do? And it's surprising to see someone like that on the board of the Washington Post. And I think that speaks volumes about between not endorsing what they did.
Yeah,
I think this is a sign of things to come. And look, it speaks to the importance of independent
Zuckerberg
media.
gave him $1 million for his inaugural. So I think you're right. They're all in for Don.
Yeah. And by the way, these were villains to Don, the first Trump administration, right? During the first Trump administration, let's remind people here, because we have short-term memories, that he villainized these people. Remember the whole tech thing, and Zuckerberg was on it. I mean, these were his, he hated these people. So it's very interesting to watch them all sort of capitulate and fall in line. And it's definitely a different era. And
that's a perfect segue to the question I want to ask. So here's 2 tweets on Shitter or X or whatever it is that they it used to be Twitter. I call it Shitter. So Donnie comes out and says, quote, any person or company investing $1 billion or more in the United States of America will receive fully expedited approvals and permits, including, but no way limited to, all environmental approvals. Get ready to rock. And then you have Elon Musk, his latest bestie, who I think tried to buy the presidency, but that's another story. But when they were talking about the canonization of the accused shooter of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, he said that, quote, insurance companies, like any company, have a duty to shareholders to maximize profits no matter how ruthlessly. The radical left espousing otherwise needs to grow the hell up. So I think, I don't think anyone thinks you should ruthlessly maximize profits on the backs of poor people except billionaires. But this, I think, to me, yeah, but it's a class. This is class warfare. Yeah. It seems to me at the end of the day, the billionaires. He's got 11 of them in his administration that he's proposed, and that is contrary to the populist movement that got him into office. There are plenty of these.
It's so upsetting to see this. I am not I know a lot of people have very strong opinions about Trump supporters and everything. I've never been a person that attacks his supporters or Trump supporters because they've been so duped and lied to along the way.
Yeah.
That they've been fed a bunch of lies. It is so upsetting to see them vote against their own interests. It is so upsetting to see white women vote against their own interests. It is so upsetting on many levels to see working class people, as the daughter of a lifelong truck driver who drove truck till the day he died, to see these groups. I mean, you look the union worker, right? The steel worker.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for a second? I mean, I was heartbroken. When he's like, wait a second, what? It was a gut punch to them of what he just did on that. What he just said, what Trump just said. He turned on them, and this guy was like, he lied to us. And I was like,
duh.
Yeah, he's been lying to you for 8 years now, right? I mean, but I think these are the hard lessons that are going to be learned. And unfortunately, I don't know what that looks like after 4 years of Trump, with how badly these people are going to be hurt. And, Elon Musk and, the shadow government of oligarchs, isn't that is that what this is?
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about something else though about this. I mean, where do you see us not 4 years from now, but just 100 days into where we are, into the first 100 days of the Trump administration? Where do you see us?
I mean, I think that you will see the immigration thing come out full force on the first day, obviously. And I say that because someone has lived who lived the first round of it firsthand. There was the Trump inauguration, and the next day, it was really right out of the gate when things like the travel ban hit and other executive orders hit, and they all hit back to back. That is one thing that I think, people forget, is that they do flood the zone. So we should see them. They are prepared. Let us be very clear about it. They are prepared. They're ready to launch. We will see them flood the zone with numerous actions at the get-go. And I think what's going to be interesting is just the management of the media of what thing do you cover? What do you do? How do you actually stay on top of this? while they execute these things, and possibly while they likely push the boundaries of the rule of law, or wait for the rule of law to catch up to them while they're executing all these things. And so, I think that is going to be the first 100 days of chaos of what they're doing here. And I think there'll be significant damage done. And I think, I've had conversations like speaking on the retribution thing and what they're doing on day one. What does it look like? Do they start the IRS investigation? I mean, I have no idea. I think they are working on figuring out like how they'll carry this out. But I do think that Trump is going to want to come in and make a huge splash on the issues that he ran on in whatever way possible so that he checks it off as a win. Never mind the fact that they're also very effective of anything that's on the edge of, being successful for the Biden administration, because they're very good at this. Republicans, I mean, I tell you this, and I obviously have a Republican background. They're very good at capitalizing on it. So you should expect him to do a couple of things, claim success and wins on it. And there are going to be some angry people out there. I'm sure they're going to be like, he had nothing to do with that. He literally had nothing to do with that.
Do you think there'll be people jailed? There'll be, I mean, I know, I almost assume, and I'm not going to say other than immigrants, because I assume they'll make good on their threats in Texas. They'll have 100%. Detention centers. And I could see them putting detention center workers and families to work doing what the immigrants are going to get kicked out of the country for doing, picking fruit as working off their sentencing. But I mean, I know that he's already said if you're a naturalized American or you were born here and he wants in birthright citizenship, which good luck with that. But if you're, if you are
that's a
in
Stephen
fact
Miller dream.
Yeah, that's Stephen Miller's dreams all surround Goebbels and Hitler, but that's another story. He's self-loathing, and we won't go there. But other than that, do you see him making detention arrests on others? Just, the enemies of the people, some of the people that he's threatened.
Oh, I think that they will certainly attempt that or come up with some scenario where they make an example of somebody, right? And again, it's to
that's
create
what I
fear.
think. They'll pick
create
one or
fear.
two. Yeah, they'll pick one or two, make an example of them, and drive the fear home to everyone else.
Yes.
So
that will be the example. So the question is like,
who's it going to be? Let's flip a coin.
and
Who do they pick?
That is the question. I think that's a very real possibility. I mean, I think there are people. I still talk to people, Americans, like people that I know, friends of friends and everything, who still think that is like, they don't see that. They're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Or like, honestly, even the cash letter, when that hit, people were like, oh, like literally people that I know, neighbors or whatever, were like, hey, what the hell was that? That was an insane letter you got by the lawyer. Like they were literally in shock and they were like, what? And I was like, oh yeah, that was coming in one way or another. It came. I thought
that wasn't even extreme for them.
Yeah, but I've got to tell you, like honestly, I think there's going to be a lot of people out there who are going to wake up in January, February, March, this time frame, and be like, wait a second, just like that steel person, the union steel worker, right? Who is like, whoa, wait a second, like. You lied to us. And I think there's a lot of people like that. Because I'm telling you, because I'm living it, right? They were like, wait, that letter, that was insane. And I'm like, where, my family, where have you been the last 4 years? I've been harassed. People have shown up at my house. I get death threats. Like, I mean, what part of that what didn't register there?
It didn't resonate. That's a question I have. I have friends around going, oh, it's going to be fine. He's going to make America great. It's perfect. Brian, I'm going, where have you been? What have you not seen? Where did I fail in communicating to you the dangers of this gentleman? And you would think that what I went through, good Lord, I had to fight him in court 3 times. Jim Acosta had to go to court. That we got daily threats. We would go to Trump events, right, and have to have, as we were talking offline before, about security. There would be security there to make sure that Donald Trump supporters wouldn't swarm us or beat us or threaten us. And it's still, there were always, people there who did. And I don't think that's going to change. I think it's going to, in fact, since they feel like
I think
they
it's
have,
going to get
they
worse.
get worse. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
And I think he'll limit his, as I see it, he's got a 27-year-old press secretary. I think they'll limit his and her access. I think she'll have a briefing maybe once or twice a week. Maybe they do it. If they do it every day, then they're going to just limit it to the people that are their friends, asking questions. It'll be brief. They'll talk. They'll leave.
What are you talking about? It's going to be Elon Musk doing the press briefings on his platform. Wait
That's
for it.
where I was going. That's where I was going.
We know these people so well. Look at us.
Yeah. So that's at the but you're going to see Elon out there. He's state-run media, and with who they appointed the Voice of America, it's going to be all propaganda all the time. Carrie Lake is, you and I both know what she's about. So, and then I imagine that Donnie will sit there in the desk for a couple hours a day, sign whatever is put in front of him by the minions, and let's look at who he's nominated. The vetting process seems to be, are you a billionaire? Do you work at Fox News? Are you a family member or a dedicated friend? And this is like mob stuff. So those people who don't see it, it's like, well, you're not looking. But I don't know how to make them look until it affects them directly.
I think that's what it is. I think at this point, I think it's going to be living it.
Yeah. So as we end this, I want to ask you, what do you think the press needs to do? Because we're not reporting it very well. What do we need to do differently to make people aware and for us to be aware of the threat to us?
Yeah, I think that there is going to be significant attempts to really silence media, to intimidate. And I think the media has a moral imperative and a job to do here in this moment, where you have to take a stand. You have to keep report the facts, and get out there. And I think it's shameful to masquerade them as a media organization. And I know that's hard words, but to masquerade as one, if you're not going to do that, because this is very real. And look, I'm telling people, and I will say this publicly now, like, people are looking around and they're like, oh, it's dramatic, it's hyperbole. No, we're not waiting for fascism. Fascism is here. And I think we need to behave like it's here. And the question is, will we be able to beat this back? And who we will be, like, in the next couple of years. And part of that starts with the media. It's the power of the freedom of speech. It's making sure that when they attempt to silence one, that people talk about it, people cover it, and people to stand together. And I think it is not okay. It is not okay to be in this space and capitulate and do that. And for heaven's sake, do not obey in advance. I mean, everyone's talking about this, right? Like, that I think is the most dangerous thing, that's worrisome, is that we are seeing a lot of sort of behavior like this, where people are sort of, they're being intimidated, they're getting scared. And I think the other thing is, like, look, the bully responds to strength.
Yes. The bully responds to a thump in the nose. So you got to thump him in the nose. That's that guy right there. That was my grandfather. He taught me that. So and he was, by the way, an immigrant from Lebanon and a judge. And by God, I'm second generation, so I guess they would go after my dad, but he's already dead. So I'm here. They can't send me back, I don't think. But you point out something and I always use this quote from Pastor Martin Niemöller after the end of the Second World War. First, they came for the communists. I did not speak out because I was not a communist. They came for the socialists. I didn't speak out because I'm not a socialist. They came for the trade unionists. I did not speak out because I wasn't in the trade union. They came for the Jews. I did not speak out because I'm not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Yeah. So that, to me, is where we are in this country. Now, you're going to have to speak out because we're all in it together. And
We
I
are.
would like you, I would like to see the press step up. I know there are some of us who will, and it's going to be a bitch to get access, but we've got to do it. And I don't say play access media because that's the biggest problem. You bow to the power to get the access. Screw that. You're going to have to report what's going on, and they should be bowing to you. The reminder that these are paid civil servants, they work for us. That means we're the boss, but
Yes.
they don't see it
Don't
that
forget
way.
that. No.
Yeah. Well, listen, Olivia, I thank you for joining me. It was a lot of fun. We come back and we'll continue the discussion sometime.
I will. And
All
I'll just
right,
wait for
great.
another letter.
As long as we're both not, as long as we're both not in Guantanamo, we're in
It's fine. Can
Gitmo.
somebody get a mic to us? If somebody can just mic the window,
Yeah.
we'll just continue to podcast from there. We'll just continue
And
to
we'll do
shout and
this.
yell. Yes, both of us like this.
Yeah. Hi. So anyway, thanks for joining us on
Thanks
Just
for
Ask.
having me.
Hey, thanks for being had. Well, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining us. This has been Reverse Shot. Look, if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up below, would you? It helps out the algorithm gods. Also, subscribe to our podcast, Just Ask the Question. And if you want a detailed look into the problems of the press from a guy who's been in it for the last 40 years, check out the book Free the Press, wherever fine books are sold. I want to thank you for watching, and we will catch up with you next time.